Hey, my friends, I wanted to bring something to your attention. It relates to a friend of ours and a fellow activist. Her name is Zara Kay. And she has been going through a situation recently that I've been speaking to on my social media pages, but I wanted to bring in someone who is much closer to it. I want to say a huge welcome out to Halima Salat. You run your own ex-Muslim page, is that correct?
Yeah.
And that is what?
Ex-Muslim Somali voices. Right now, we just have a bit of social media presence, but not. We're in the works of a foundation.
It is an interesting thing to watch the plight of the ex-Muslim. Like, I'm an ex-Christian, so I get a lot of the platitudes. I'm so sorry you never knew Jesus. I'll pray for you. But I mean, it's rare that you see the vitriol that ex Muslims face, the death threats, the rape threats, the absolute toxicity. And of course, then we get into these theocratic Islamic fundamentalist nations where Islam and the law are essentially melded together, which brings us to Zara Kay. She is the founder of Faithless Hijabi, and she was recently detained by the police. Can you sort of synopsize the story? What happened to Zara Kay?
Well, Zara was called into the police station in Dar es Salaam. She's been visiting family over there on the 28th of December. So she was informed that she needed to go to the police station to answer questions about posts. So naturally, Zara at that time tweeted quickly that I've been called to answer about posts, and she had reason to believe that it was about blasphemy because her Twitter page has pinned posts and her recent posts, all of those. But for 32 hours, there was no clarity or anything. So Zara was kept in a police cell for uh, for for all those hours without us hearing anything. Um, and then upon being released on bail after those 32 hours, we found out that the allegations against her were about using a SIM card not in her name, social media post about the president of Tanzania, and not returning her previously owned Tanzanian passport. But you have to understand, Zara is an Australian citizen.
Let me stop right there for just a second. The charges originally were not blasphemy charges, right? Not overtly. They were these sort of trumped up charges, illegally
Absolutely.
using someone else's SIM card in her phone, which I guess belonged to a member of her family or something. I mean, this sounds totally bogus, right?
It's absolutely bullshit. If you're visiting family and that's not your normal residence, that's not where you're normally living. I mean, you're not going to go and get a subscription for a phone, right? You need a phone to be using in the meantime. And when we did a bit of research, Tanzania had introduced this law sometime in 2020. Zara had no way of knowing this either, you know.
So they did. It was an arrest. Is that right?
It was an arrest. Yeah,
Okay.
She was kept in police cell for 32 hours.
So she's in a nation that is not her own. She's in Tanzania. There's bullshit charges that are placed. She is arrested and now is out on bail, but her plight is far from over. Can you explain kind of what she's up against right now?
Because of Zara's social media presence and how vocal she has been against Islam, um, we have credible information coming from credible sources on the ground that this was initiated by members of her former community. I would call it former because Zara was ostracized from the community. And Koja Shia Itnishari Jamaat, that's the name, um, to make sure that they get her.
Get her. I mean, we talking death threats? We talking
Yeah, it's
long term
been
imprisonment?
There have been loads of death threats, loads of rape threats, and Zara herself has constantly been making them actually public in her social media posts. All you have to do is scroll through Zara's own posts to see how many things she gets in private messages, in comments on social media posts.
And the effort now is to try to get her out of there. We're trying to give pressure. We're trying to force the hand to do the right thing of the Tanzanian authorities. She's going in every day. She's having to check in so she gets to relive sort of that intimidation by the day. She never knows who's going to knock on her door or what's going to happen next. And we want to tell the Tanzanian authorities they have hugely overreached. This is a human rights nightmare. The hashtags are on Twitter and Facebook. Hashtag free Zara Kay and justice for Zara Kay. Halima, you have been involved in helping to spread those hashtags as well. What is it you are trying to accomplish?
Because at the same as much as she's out on bail technically, and all this is dragging out, her passport's been held, she's not officially being taken to court, so she's not free. I personally think that free Zara K hashtag is still very relevant in Zara's case, because as much as Tanzania doesn't have succinct, clearly worded blasphemy laws, there are some acts in the law against a general act as protection against religious hate. I come from Kenya, so I know the laws are very similar because Kenya and Tanzania, they are in the East African bloc. A lot of the things are very similar. There's just small nuances of differences. So we've been on this since 28th. Trying to create a lot of awareness for Zara's case, but we've had to constantly explain why did she post about blasphemy, and now it's not blasphemy, what's going on?
So they just trumped this up. This is really about religious oppression. This is really about them saying, you have insulted the prophet. Because Zara is pretty bold out there, as you are, as many ex-Muslim activists are, right? They're like, Islam does not get a pass. Islam is an idea. We are advocates for Muslims and ex-Muslims. But Islam, well, that is a truth claim we think is false and harmful. We challenge that. And for that, many of these nations, cultures, people have decided this is jihad, right? This is a holy war against all ex-Muslims. This is a tactic to try to shut her up, shut her down, and intimidate the rest of us. Would you agree?
Yeah, and it's also a known fact in countries where blasphemy laws are not as succinct and clear on paper, that a common way to actually target vocal and bold ex-Muslims is through these misdemeanor charges, making accusations via the state actors, to silence them, to teach them a lesson, that sort of thing.
I have your Twitter hashtag in the title screen. I would encourage everyone to follow Halima Salat and her amazing work, and also tweet and post and get the word out about Zara Kay. Hashtag free Zara Kay, hashtag justice for Zara Kay. And there is a link I have included in the description box for people to get totally informed and to help sort of raise the temperature on this. Can you describe what that update is, what it does?
Well, basically, there's a lot of organizations that immediately also came together on the go on the 28th, getting organized behind the scenes, trying to send letters to consulates, calling consulates, that sort of thing. And the campaign for justice for Zara Kay, we jumped on it so hard because we know what can go wrong.
Is there anything else we can be doing? I mean, we can sign the petitions, we can hashtag, can we call the embassy and just say, hey, or, is there a resource there?
Yeah, initially, our first statement, we asked people to just basically email the Tanzanian embassies in their country of residence or their country of citizen, and just try and put pressure in that regard. But also because you have to understand countries like Tanzania really care about image and losing tourism and donor funding and all that kind of stuff. And when we made all these noises now, they are trying to make it even harder for Zara. And we know that Zara has not done any crime. We know that she's being targeted, and we just want her to be given her passport back, her Australian passport, so that she can travel home.
And we want to send a message to anybody else who's trying to trump up these charges that there is a resistance, right? There's a human rights opposition to this. And so I think we here in the West, we need to be a part of this conversation, right? Islam does not get a pass. This sort of Islamic theocratic oppression does not get quarter. They don't get to go after people for having a disagreeing opinion, for criticizing, hell, even blaspheming, right? Our position is if Allah exists, Muhammad exists, they can take care of themselves. They don't need jihadists to trump up a bunch of charges against our fellow human beings. And Zara's a friend. She's been on my show several times. And I'm so thankful for you. I'm so thankful that you're getting the word out and being a part of this solution. I have linked to the update in the description box. Everybody click the link, make a statement online, and use the hashtags Free Zara Kay, Justice for Zara Kay. And for your help and for telling her story and for being a part of this conversation, thank you so very much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And hang on.